Citizens of the future, welcome to Rome, the heart of an empire that once ruled the known world. It is the year 98 AD, and Emperor Trajan sits on the throne. The streets are alive with sound and motion. Merchants call out their prices, children run between marble pillars, and senators in crisp white togas argue beneath the open sky.
When Trajan succeeds to the Roman Empire, Rome is at its greatest. It's vast, it's successful, it's rich, and Trajan really personifies that, the energy, the success, and the sophistication of this extraordinary institution.
Under his leadership, the Roman Empire reaches its greatest territorial extent, 2 million square miles.
This is the Rome you've heard of, grand, disciplined, and powerful. But behind the marble lies another city, one made of sweat, smoke, and human struggle. For generations, Rome has been remembered as a place of perfection, a symbol of civilization itself. Yet much of what survives about it comes from poets, politicians, and historians who shaped stories to glorify power. They spoke of honor, victory, and order, but rarely of the noise, the dirt, or the hunger that filled everyday Roman life. Beneath every shining temple stood a street lined with wooden homes ready to burn. For every emperor remembered in gold, there were thousands of nameless workers who built his legacy with their hands. This is the real Rome, not only a city of triumphs but also one of contradictions. It was both the most advanced and the most ruthless civilization of its time. Here, beauty and cruelty walked together. Its art and architecture reached heights never seen before, yet its empire fed on conquest and slavery. As we journey through this ancient world, we will separate myth from truth. We will see what the Romans truly wore, how they lived, what they believed, and what they left behind. The Rome you think you know is only half the story. The rest lies in the shadows of its streets, waiting to be told. ChatGPT said, "When people think of Rome, they often picture every citizen wrapped in a shining white toga, walking through marble streets as symbols of discipline and grace. That image has lived for centuries in paintings, films, and the imagination of history lovers. But the truth is, most Romans would have laughed at that idea. The toga was never meant for everyday life. It was heavy, hot, and difficult to wear. Only senators, politicians, and men of high rank bothered with it, and even they wore it reluctantly, mostly during public ceremonies or important meetings. For ordinary Romans, life demanded comfort and movement. They wore simple tunics, easy to wash, easy to work in, and far more practical for the crowded streets of the city. Farmers, soldiers, merchants, even children wore tunics made of wool or linen, depending on the season. The toga, in contrast, became a symbol not of style but of status. Wearing one said, "I belong to the elite." It was a costume of respectability, a public display of citizenship and authority. The contrast was clear. A senator wrapped in layers of white cloth stood apart from the sweat-stained workers and traders who made his wealth possible. Clothing in Rome wasn't just fabric, it was identity. It separated the powerful from the powerless, the free from the enslaved. So, the next time you imagine Rome as a sea of togas, remember this. Beneath the silk of ceremony was a city dressed in simplicity. The real Rome was not built by men in formal robes, it was carried on the shoulders of those in tunics. And if you truly want to understand the empire, you must first learn to see beyond the costume. The story of Rome's clothing is the story of its people divided by fabric, but united by survival. They say Rome was a city of marble, a shining jewel of the ancient world that dazzled every visitor who stepped through its gates. And yes, in the heart of the empire near the temples, the Senate, and the palace's marble did gleam under the Italian sun. Emperor Augustus himself proudly declared, "I found Rome a city of brick and left it a city of marble." But that, like much of Roman glory, was a story written for the elite, not for the people. The real Rome, the one where most citizens lived, was a different sight entirely. Beyond the marble facades stood rows of tall, narrow buildings made of wood and mud brick, known as insulae. These were the apartments of ordinary Romans, overcrowded, noisy, and dangerously unstable. The wealthy lived on the lower floors, closer to safety and water, while the poor climbed higher into rooms that baked in summer and froze in winter. A single spark could turn these neighborhoods into infernos. Fires spread fast, devouring everything before help could arrive. And even when the flames slept, another enemy lurked: disease. With no running water in most homes, waste piled up in alleys and streets. Rats, insects, and foul air made illness part of daily life. The scent of Rome was not perfume and flowers, it was smoke, sweat, and decay. Here lies the truth. Many refuse to see the marble Rome was built on the mud-brick Rome. The beauty that history remembers stood upon the hardship of those forgotten in shadow. So, the next time you hear the words, the eternal city, remember, eternity came at a cost. Behind every glittering temple and carved statue stood the worn hands of those who built them and the wooden walls that crumbled in their silence. Rome's greatest legacy wasn't its emperors draped in gold or its victorious legions marching across continents. It was its engineers, the visionaries who turned ambition into architecture. They didn't just build structures, they built systems that defined civilization itself. Take the aqueduct's immense channels carved through rock and valley, carrying clean water from mountains hundreds of miles away into the beating heart of Rome. At a time when much of the world relied on wells or rivers, Romans had running water in public baths, fountains, and even private homes. It was more than luxury, it was life, powered by precision. The flow of that water symbolized control, order, and the brilliance of Roman planning. Then came the roads, the veins of the empire. Built with layers of stone, gravel, and sand, these roads stretched over 400,000 kilometers. Perfectly straight, built to withstand time and weather, they connected far-flung provinces, armies, merchants, and cultures. All roads lead to Rome wasn't just poetry, it was geography, politics, and strategy fused together. Those roads made Rome's empire not just vast, but united. And centuries later, when we drive on concrete highways or walk across stone bridges, we're still walking in Rome's footsteps. Their methods, their precision, their idea of permanence, all continue to shape our world. This was more than engineering, it was a philosophy. Build not for now, but for eternity. So here's the thought, in an age where everything changes overnight, can we still create something so powerful, so enduring, that people thousands of years from now will remember our mark the way we remember Rome's? Show their dual role as soldiers and engineers. Many imagine the Roman legions as brutal conquerors who crushed everything in their path, but the truth runs much deeper. Their true power wasn't just in the sword, it was in their discipline, structure, and strategy. The Roman army was less a mob of warriors and more a moving machine, precise, calculated, and unstoppable. Every soldier was trained not only to fight but to think. Their armor, the lorica segmentata, was designed for both protection and mobility. Their shields locked together to form an impenetrable wall, a symbol of unity and coordination. Each movement, from forming ranks to striking in rhythm, was the result of relentless drilling. The Roman soldier didn't rely on rage, he relied on routine. Their camps were another marvel. Wherever they marched, they built walls, roads, bridges, and entire temporary cities that could rise and fall within a day. Each camp followed the same grid pattern, complete with defense lines, command tents, and workshops. When the battle was over, the same hands that wielded swords would pick up tools and shape the landscape. The Roman legion was both sword and shovel warriors by day, engineers by necessity. This combination of strength and structure is what allowed Rome to expand and endure for centuries. They didn't just conquer with force, they conquered with order. And maybe that's the real lesson: greatness doesn't come from chaos or brute power. It comes from discipline, structure, and the ability to build something that lasts long after the battle ends. Life in ancient Rome wasn't built around privacy, it was built around people. From morning baths to evening meals, everything happened in public view. The idea of personal space simply didn't exist the way it does today. Even the most private moments were shared experiences. Public baths were the center of social life, places to bathe, gossip, make business deals, or debate politics. But the real test of Roman comfort with community came in their public toilets. Rows of stone seats with no dividers, where people would sit side by side, chatting while nature took its course. And yes, they even shared a single cleaning sponge, dipped in water and passed from person to person, a detail that's both fascinating and, let's admit, slightly horrifying. But for the Romans, this wasn't strange, it was normal. Life was about interaction, not isolation. Every act, from bathing to eating, reflected a belief that community mattered more than solitude. They lived together, worked together, and quite literally, washed together. This sense of togetherness built strong bonds within society, a shared rhythm that connected rich and poor, soldier and citizen alike. Privacy may have been rare, but belonging was constant. So maybe the question isn't how they lived without privacy, but how we learned to live without connection. One of the strangest and most misunderstood myths about ancient Rome is that Romans used urine to whiten their teeth. It sounds outrageous, and while there's a hint of truth in it, the real story is more about practicality than vanity. In reality, urine wasn't part of Roman dental care. It was used in phalonicae, ancient laundries, where workers cleaned clothes using fermented urine. The ammonia in urine acted as a natural detergent, helping to remove grease and dirt from fabrics. So, when you imagine Romans collecting jars of urine from public baths or streets, it wasn't for brushing their teeth, it was for washing their clothes. To the Roman mind, it was simply another resource, not a source of disgust. This practical mindset carried into their ideas of hygiene and beauty. The famous Roman baths, often imagined as sparkling pools of luxury, were, in truth, not as clean as they appeared. These baths were social centers where hundreds of people gathered daily, moving from hot rooms to cold plunges, sharing oils and sponges. But the water wasn't drained or replaced frequently. It was reused, and by the end of the day, the once clear pools often turned cloudy with sweat, dirt, and oils. Still, for Romans, bathing wasn't just about getting clean, it was a ritual of status and society. The grand architecture of bathhouses like the baths of Caracalla or Diocletian reflected power and prosperity. To step into those marble halls was to participate in a shared performance of civilization. Cleanliness was as much about appearance and public image as it was about actual hygiene. Roman beauty standards also reveal fascinating contradictions. Wealthy citizens applied perfumed oils to mask body odor rather than eliminate it, since soap, as we know it today, wasn't common. They used pumice stones to exfoliate and applied makeup made from natural minerals, though many of these contained lead, which gradually poisoned their skin. White, smooth skin was a mark of class and refinement, while tanned skin was associated with laborers and slaves. Their sense of beauty was deeply connected to social identity. How one looked reflected who one was. A polished appearance symbolized discipline and dignity, much like the empire itself. But underneath the perfumes and polished marble, everyday hygiene was far from modern standards. The irony is striking. A civilization capable of designing aqueducts to carry clean water across mountains still bathed in murky pools and shared sponges. Yet, in their eyes, they were the epitome of cleanliness and culture. To them, clean didn't mean sterile, it meant refined, civilized, and distinctly Roman. Their hygiene practices reveal not ignorance, but difference, a worldview where beauty, order, and community outweighed the modern obsession with purity. So while we might wrinkle our noses at their methods, maybe the real question is centuries from now. What everyday habits of our time will people look back on and think, how could they ever call that clean? When people think of ancient Rome, one image stands out above all others: the gladiator, the arena, the roar of the crowd, and the clash of steel under the burning sun. For centuries, stories and films have shown us a world where men fought to the death for entertainment, but the truth is far more complex and far more human. The idea that every gladiator fight ended in blood and death is one of the biggest myths of Roman history. In reality, gladiators were highly trained and valuable assets. They were expensive to train, house, and maintain investments for their owners and managers. Each fighter could take months or even years to master the art of combat, so throwing them away in every match made little economic sense. Most bouts were carefully managed displays of skill, strength, and bravery, rather than chaotic battles to the death. In many arenas, including the mighty Colosseum, referees were present to oversee the fight and decide when one combatant was defeated. Death could happen. Of course, injuries were common, and accidents were deadly, but the execution-style endings often depicted in popular culture were rare. Sometimes, a defeated fighter would raise a finger to plead for mercy, and the decision would rest with the crowd or the emperor. A skilled and popular gladiator often lived to fight another day. What's more fascinating is how gladiators lived double lives, slaves by law, but celebrities by fame. The most successful ones had fan followings, admirers, and even endorsements. They appeared on pottery, graffiti, and jewelry. Roman women swooned over them. Poets wrote verses about their courage. In a society obsessed with honor and spectacle, gladiators became paradoxical heroes, despised for their low status, yet adored for their valor. Still, beneath all the glamour and cheering, the arena carried a darker message. Gladiatorial games were not just entertainment, they were a powerful symbol of Roman dominance. Every spectacle reminded citizens of Rome's might, control, and the cost of defiance. The emperor's presence at the games wasn't just ceremonial, it was political. By giving the masses bread and circuses, Rome kept its people distracted and loyal. The arena became a stage where power itself was performed, life and death resting on the emperor's thumb. Gladiators also reflected the contradictions of Rome itself, disciplined, magnificent, and brutal all at once. They were both victims and icons, fighting not only for survival but for a strange kind of immortality that came through fame. So, while the myth paints them as doomed warriors in endless slaughter, the reality shows something deeper, a carefully constructed theater of control, emotion, and empire. The Colosseum may be silent now, but the echoes of those cheers still whisper through history, not just of battles fought, but of a civilization that turned violence into art and power into spectacle. As centuries have passed, the once mighty city of Rome has transformed from the beating heart of an empire into a living museum of stone and memory. Today, tourists walk the same cobbled streets where senators once debated, soldiers once marched, and chariots once thundered. The marble temples are cracked, the forums are silent, and the Colosseum stands like a giant scar, yet somehow Rome still feels alive. Every ruin tells a story. The arches that once celebrated victory now frame the footsteps of travelers. The aqueducts that carried life to 1 million citizens still stand as bridges between the ancient and the modern. And though the empire itself has long fallen, its shadow stretches across continents in our laws, our languages, our architecture, and even our dreams of greatness. Rome was not just a collection of buildings or armies, it was an idea that believed civilization could be built through discipline, beauty, and power. But myths still linger, don't they? We imagine Rome as perfect marble, heroic legions, and grand emperors. Yet behind the glory were crowded streets, endless work, and ordinary people, bakers, farmers, merchants, and slaves, who made the empire live and breathe. The myth of Rome is not false, it is incomplete. It tells only the story of its triumphs, not the struggle that built them. And perhaps that's why we remain fascinated, because Rome was never one thing. It was both brutal and brilliant, both chaos and order, both myth and reality. As we walk through the ruins today, surrounded by cameras and souvenir shops, it's easy to forget that this was once the center of the world. But if you stand still for a moment, close your eyes, and listen, you can almost hear it, the sound of sandals on stone, the chatter of merchants, the laughter from bathhouses, and the echo of the crowd in the arena. The city breathes still, just differently now. Rome's endurance lies not in its stones, but in its influence. Every parliament building with tall columns, every legal system rooted in logic, every straight road that connects cities, they all trace their origins back to Rome. The empire may have fallen, but the idea of Rome, the belief in progress, structure, and ambition, has never truly died. In truth, the myths and realities of Rome are inseparable. One gives the other meaning. Without myth, Rome would be forgotten ruins. Without reality, it would be nothing more than a legend. Together, they make it eternal. Rome was never just a city. It was and remains an idea that civilizations rise and fall, but greatness, in one form or another, always finds a way to endure.